What's up everybody, today in the shop I have a 2005 Jeep Grand Cherokee. Now this car is here because the customer complaint is that the check engine light came on and it's idling rough. He said that if you just let the car sit, it'll stall on you, but if you drive it, it's fine. So he was able to drive it here, and now we're going to check it out. And actually last night I was in the car when he dropped it off and I just did a preliminary scan and I was looking at some live data and I was actually able to recreate the customer complaint. I was just sitting there and the car the RPMs lowered and the car died. So I'll roll that clip right now and then we'll continue with our diagnostics. Alright, so now that you guys saw how it was acting, I got the scanner hooked up and I ran a health report. For some reason last night the Jeep OEM menu wasn't loading, but I got it to load today and it's the same codes. So we have just all 4 O2 sensors, heater circuit low. So what are the odds that all 4 sensors went bad? Very low, and then a multiple cylinder misfire. The rest of these we don't care about, but yeah, all 4 O2 sensor codes. There's no way all 4 of them went bad. There's a 99% chance the sensors are good and we're dealing with some type of wiring or electric issue. So what we could do now is just go look at some live data and we'll go from there. Alright, so I just got the O2 sensor voltages pulled up and then the heater pulse width, so heater control. Let's just go ahead and turn the car on and see what happens. So you can see it's not happy at all, surging. Pulse width is at 0. Wow, okay. So these are just completely stuck. I think 5 volts is... Well, let's see if the sensors wake up, because I don't think 5 volts is a bias voltage. You could see the pulse width for the O2 heaters is at 0, so it's not even commanding the heaters on. We might have to clear the fault codes for that to happen. So let's go try that. If the car doesn't die on me. You can see it's not happy at all. So let's go back, clear fault codes. Let me just turn the ignition on. Yes. Fault code clear completed. Let's read fault codes. No DTCs, okay. So let's go back, and now the check engine light's flashing, so let's try that again. Read fault codes, DTC, no DTCs, okay. So I guess that was just the scanner communicating. We'll read data stream. Let me pull up the data again and I'll be back. Alright, so got the data pulled up again. Let's turn the car on. Alright, so now we have command for the heaters, 99%. And the O2 sensors are responding. Car's actually running fine. Now it's starting to surge a bit, not too much. You can see the sensors they're actually heating up, so is this an intermittent fault? The guy said the check engine light went away for a bit, I think, and then it came back, so maybe this is we're dealing with an intermittent fault. The car seems to be running fine and is happy with the O2 sensors. They're heating up. Let's see if they start oscillating. Sensor 1 is bank 1 and bank 2. I guess it's a small scale, but they're oscillating. And then these are the downstreams right here. Those are fine as well. Yeah, it's running fine. Downstreams go rich, upstream same thing. Interesting. So we got rid of the fault by clearing the codes. How often do you see that? Let's go back, let's read fault codes. No DDCs, okay. What I want to do is go to the OBD2 menu now and just read fuel trims. Alright, so on OBD2, got the RPM, fuel system is in closed loop, both banks, and then I got one of the O2 sensors. Where is it at? Right here. You can see it's oscillating nicely. OBD2 shows it better. Fuel trims, long terms -2, short terms I mean, this car's running perfectly right now. Do we even need to diagnose anything? Oh yeah, because we're dealing with an intermittent fault. This wouldn't set for no reason, all 4 O2 sensors. So I'm going to show you what I'm looking for next, and then we'll go from there. Alright, so I have some wiring diagrams put up here, and I also had the O2 sensor pinout diagrams, but I guess I left them in the office. So I drew out a diagram for you so I could show you guys what we're looking for. So this is the O2 sensor, and this is the ECU. The O2 sensor has a heater ground, and all 4 O2 sensors are tied to the same heater ground. It's at the front of the engine bay according to the diagram, if I remember correctly. And then the ECU sends a 12-volt heater signal to the O2 sensor to heat it up. Then we also have a sensor ground that comes from the ECU, and then the sensor signal that comes from the O2 sensor back into the ECU. So what I want to do is disconnect the heater controls at the ECU, and then this is obviously tied to a chassis ground. And so I want to tie my multimeter to a ground point, and then from the ECU connector, test for resistance through the O2 sensor back out to ground. If that checks out, we're good. I think this car is going to be good to go. If we have too much resistance or something's wrong, then we have to chase this ground and find out what's wrong there. So I have the wiring diagrams here. Let's go disconnect the connector at the car and find out what's going on. Alright guys, so I got the voltmeter set up, and I just bought this, so testing it out pretty nice so far. It's the Astro AI. There's the part number if you want it. And guys, always test your equipment, because I just hooked up one end to battery ground right here at the wire, not at the actual post. And then I realized my multimeter wasn't going to reach over there, so I tried to use these test leads. I just got these two, and I went to check resistance between the actual battery post and where I had the test lead, just like that. And you can see right now I have pretty much 0.002 whatever. I had 8 ohms of resistance through this, so that's not going to work out. That's not going to be a true reading. We want to get a true reading here, so I just have to stretch this out and hopefully you guys can see it. Alright, so got everything hooked up. Here's my test lead, and then here is the ECU connector. And I noticed on the edge, look at that, there's like exposed copper. That's not good. I'm gonna have to cover that up. Anyways, pin 17 and 18 are what we're after. Those are gonna be 2 of our heater controls. It's gonna be half of the big sensors. So anyways, this is pin 1 that goes that way. So this is pin 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Put my pin in there. Make sure you don't spread it out. These are needle pins, so I'm fine. And we have 4.1 ohms, so that is perfect. 4.0, 4.1. Remember, the car was on too for a little bit, so that's going to affect the reading. Anyways, let's move to the next pin. Pin 18. 3.9 ohms. That's a bit low, but it checks out. So let's go back here to our wiring diagram and see what we just checked. So pin 17 and 18. 17 was 4.1 and 3.9 for pin 18. So bank 2 sensor 1 and bank 1 sensor 1, those are both of the precat sensors. We checked both of those. Remember, we went from battery ground all the way through the sensor coils all the way back to the ECU. So that all of that wiring, everything, the sensor itself, the ground, we just checked all of that by doing this simple test right here. So let's move on to the next 2, and then hopefully we don't find anything. Alright, so next we have pin 3. We're going to look for connector 3, and we're looking for pins 9 and 10. So let's go disconnect that and let's test those. Alright, so this is connector 3. Pins 9 and 10 are going to be these last 2. So pin 9 right here. There you go. 4.1. And we will check our final O2 heater circuit right here, pin 10. Sorry for the bad angles. Alright. And again, we got 4.0. So let's go write that down. What do we have? 4.1. 4.0. Alright, so what did we just check? Like I said, we checked this wiring right here. We checked the sensor heater coil, so the actual O2 sensor seems fine. And we checked it all the way back out to battery or chassis ground, wherever that's hooked up. Now, are those readings correct? I don't know. I don't have the specifications for those. But what we can do is, we know the sensors are fine because the signals, because the sensors woke up. So what we could do is just check this ground right here. and after that we'll be done. Alright, so here are the engine grounds, or sorry, the chassis grounds, front left of the engine compartment, and I have the meter still connected to that sensor. That's the heater control ground or whatever, the heater control circuit. And so I just wanted to see if I play with these grounds, am I able to have that number kind of jump around? So let's see. I'm just touching the grounds right now, moving them around. It's at 3.8 now, so I guess the sensor is cooling down or something, but 3.9, 3.8. Let me touch the other ground point. It seems like I could tweak it a bit. So what I'm gonna do now is, if you guys see that, it's a little bit crusty. It's not bad though. It should still be making a good connection, but maybe it drops out with heat. So I'm gonna open this up, I'm gonna clean it up, and then we'll take another reading. Alright guys, so I disconnected that ground point and the numbers are jumping around, but it's not connected to anything, and I still have, well, see, it goes away when I'm playing with the wires, but it's not connected to anything, and then it comes back 3.2. So I'm not sure where this is getting a ground from other than here. I'm gonna try to disconnect this one, see if it goes away completely, but the fact that I'm playing with it and the ground is going away and coming back, I mean, it feels like we have a short circuit or an open wire somewhere. But I'll keep going. I'll take this one off too and we'll see what happens. Alright, so I think I finally got it. The smaller the smaller wire on this bigger ground point. See, right now we're at 0 steady. If I touch it to the battery terminal, it's gonna jump up 3.0, and as soon as I let go, 0. So this right here is the heater oxygen sensor ground. So I needed to clean both of these up anyways. As you can see, they're a bit crusty, and so that might have been the cause of our issues in the first place. These are not connecting as well as they should, and so the computer has a small tolerance for that. If it goes over that tolerance, then it'll throw those errors and disable the O2 sensor heater circuits. So let's clean this up, let's throw this back together, take the car for a test drive, and this one should be fixed. Alright, so I got everything nice and clean. You could see nice and shiny. Got the contact points clean, got the bolts clean too. It's very important. If you do this, you clean the bolts too, and then chase the threads as well. I don't have a thread chaser right now, but I would have done that if I did. Should be fine though. I'm gonna go ahead and put these grounds back on, and then we'll take another reading. Alright, so I got everything back connected. 3.5 seems like a good reading. Alright, so as you saw, the resistance did go down. I have the data pulled up now. I just cleared the codes, so let's go ahead and turn the car back on. Let's see if we fixed it. Check engine light back on. Let's see. Why is the data not showing? Graph. Oh no, we got 0%. Sensors are responding, but we don't have any heater control. Let's go read the codes. Car is starting to run rough. Yep, same thing. O2 sensor heater performance, and then circuit low. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I wanna clear the codes, clear fault codes, yes, done. We'll read the fault codes, none, okay. And then I wanna pull the O2 data back up, and then what I wanna do is go straight to the heater pin on the ECU and feed it 12 volts, and we'll see if the ECU is even capable of reading that signal. What we could also do is put an oscilloscope on the ECU heater signals. That way we could see if the ECU is actually trying to deliver a pulse width. So let's go do that first. Let's go put the scope on there and clear the fault codes on here, make sure that we have a fresh start, and then we'll go from there. Alright, got the scope hooked up, just one channel to the O2 sensor heater output. Got the data pulled up. We are on sensor 2.1 on the scope, so whatever happens here should happen here, or nothing. And then scope is hooked up to battery ground. So let's go turn on the car and let's see what happens. Remember, code's cleared, so we'll see. Okay, check engine came back on. What do we have? Slow down. We got something. I don't know if that's right though, because we got 0 on everything. Alright, so I put in the voltage readings and we're at millivolts, so that's actually, it throws you off because it looks like it's a lot of activity, but we're on millivolts, so it's 0% because remember, this is a 12 volt system. Also, something just pissed me off. My oscilloscope, look how they spelled function, it says funcation. What the hell, man? Anyways, the next test I want to run is I want to feed straight 12 volts all the way to the heater control at the ECU and see if the ECU is even capable of reading that. Is this a logic problem in the ECU or what's going on? Because right now I'm ready to call the ECU. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's disconnect the oscilloscope and I'm going to feed 12 volts and we'll see what happens on the scanner. Alright, so here's the setup. Battery positive going through my jumper leads all the way to a test light. If this test light finds ground, it will light up. So let's test that. Always test your equipment. Good. Now I have this lead coming from the heater control, from the heater positive, heater duty cycle wire, whatever you want to call it, from the ECU, right? It's hooked up, piercing probe. Alright, so right here, that's the one we're hooked up to. If I feed this battery positive through the test light, now this test light's only 500 milliamps, so we're not going to fry anything. This is kind of going to act like a fuse. Whatever is on that side of the circuit will not draw more than 500 milliamps because of the test light. So if I'm feeding battery positive through the test light to the O2 sensor heater circuit, will the computer read it? That's the question. So here we go. It lights up bright, but all of our duty cycles are still 0. So I'm wondering, should I clear the codes? Is the circuit disabled? Give me a second. If we read the fault codes, yes, we have all the O2 sensor codes. So what we're going to do, clear fault codes, yes. Okay, hold on, it says the engine has to be off. Alright, engine off, clear the fault codes, yes. Okay. Oops. Read fault codes. Nothing. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we're going to go to read data stream and we're going to pull up the same thing we had before. I just want the pulse width for the heaters now. We're not going to get distracted with the other stuff. Alright, perfect. Graph all 4 of those. We're at 0 right now. So if I feed, I think sensor 2.1 is this wire right here. If I feed it 12 volts, what will happen? Test light's dimmer than before, but we still have 0%. The duty cycle should be reading 100% right now, but we have 0. Hold on, let me hook this up better. Alright, so that's hooked up properly. It's lighting up bright. Still 0%. I made sure we had no codes. So I don't know, does the car have to be on for these readings to happen? So I don't know, let's try that. Look at that, 99%. Okay, so the computer can read that we're feeding it. It's blinking because it's a pulse width, and the one we're feeding has a little activity, and the rest of them are at 100%. So I wonder if I disconnect this now. Are these gonna drop out? So the test light's disconnected. Yeah, look at that, they dropped out. I bet you the check engine's gonna be on now. The car was running without it. Yep. Man, this just went from normal Diag to an interesting case study. So what if we reconnect this now? It's bright now, so it disabled the circuit. We're still reading 0. So I bet you if we clear the codes now, with this connected, turn the car on and off, it should work fine. So let's try that. Let me go turn off the engine. Alright, engine's off. Let me go back, read the fault codes. Should have the O2 sensor, yep. Alright, circuit low. We'll go back, clear fault codes. Yes. Okay. Clear completed. Read fault codes. None. Okay. Read data stream. I guess we'll read the sensor feedback too. Okay, graph all that. Let's go turn the car on. Alright, car's on, no check engine at all. Man, this is crazy. There you go. Everything is working as it should. We have a pulse width signal. So what's the diag? The PCM's bad. The drivers inside of the PCM that power the O2 sensor heaters, the drivers in the PCM are bad. And with the test light, we're able to put an extra load on those and somehow get it to turn on. Now, what does this remind me of? I don't know if you guys watch Panhandle Auto Diagnostics. Ivan, on his channel, he had a PT Cruiser with this exact same issue. And with the test light, he was able to bring the ECU back to life, to where it worked. But he had to leave the test light connected, and it seems like that's what we have here. So, at this point, I can either wire this test light in permanently, or we could replace the ECU or have it rebuilt or whatever the customer wants to do. So I'm gonna have to give a call to the customer, see what he wants to do. But if this was my car, I would leave this in there, to be honest with you. Yeah, it's interesting because if you go watch his video, I highly recommend you go watch that. That was a very educational video. But if you go watch his video, the car was not happy with the resistor. It had to be a test light. The ECU just didn't like resistor of the same value too. It was 1 amp resistor or whatever. It wasn't happy. He had to have a test light there, which is so interesting. Can somebody explain that? Anyways, let me call the customer. We'll see what we want to do, and then we'll get this car fixed. Alright, so letting the car idle for a bit. Check engine is still off, but we have pending codes for O2 sensor heater performance. Now, the thing is that this is 3 codes, so one of the sensors is missing. The one that's missing is the one that the test light is connected to. So, are we gonna have to connect all 4 sensors to the test light? It's looking like it, because these are gonna set the active codes eventually after you drive, and the check engine's gonna come back on, and we can't have that here. So yeah, we're gonna have to hook it up to all 4 of the O2 sensors. The bypass will still work, but let me get in touch with the customer and see what he wants to do. Alright, so I called the customer and he didn't answer. So in the meanwhile, I found this in my garage. It's a 6 ohm resistor. This is meant for like light bulbs when you want to run LEDs, when you have a CAN bus system, kind of like what's going on right here. I want to see if this will work in place of the test light. So I'm gonna go ahead and hook this up and we'll test this. Alright, so I got the resistor hooked up, same setup, just from battery positive through the resistor down to the heater control. Let's go clear the codes and see if this works. Alright, and the car engine's off. I just cleared the fault codes. So let's go data stream and let's read our data again. Okay, graph that, and we'll turn the car on. No, it is not happy. 0. So yeah, it's gonna have to be a light bulb. So the resistor, like I said, it doesn't work. I don't know why. That's so funny, because 6 ohms should be equivalent to 2 amps, which is what a light bulb would be, but it's not happy. It's not happy. We gotta install a light bulb. So I'm gonna wait for the customer to respond and we'll go from there. Alright guys, look what finally came in. It's been a few weeks. I've had the car for a while, but finally got my hands on one of these. Now, the issue with these is I was looking for a company to be able to rebuild the one that is off the car. And a bunch of companies told me they could do it, and then they got back and said we can't do it. And then I tried to find companies that had used ones, or you know, even new ones, and nobody had it. It's so hard to find these. So my question is, like, when all of these start dying, like, where are you going to get these from? Nobody specializes in rebuilding them, and we can't really get used ones. So, but I finally got my hands on one, so let's go ahead and program this and install it in the car, and let's see if we fixed it. Alright guys, got the ECU installed. It's pretty simple. 2 screws and then the little clip on the back, and then just all the connectors. So let's connect the scanner, get that programmed, and what do you guys think? Is this going to be fixed? We'll find out. Alright guys, so I'm in the car. I got the launch hooked up. Let's go ahead and run intelligent diagnose. Let's see what VIN it... I really gotta log in. Alright, let's see what VIN it detects. Cool, so I could talk to the ECU. 5.7 liter 2005, that's perfect. So take note of that VIN, And then I'm gonna grab the car's real VIN right now, and then we're gonna compare it. Alright guys, so that's the real VIN on this car. I have it copied on the scanner now. So let's go back to diagnostics. And we'll run a full health report, and then we'll go program it. Okay, health report. And we'll let that do its thing and see what's going on. Alright, so health report, invalid skim key. And then a bunch of random codes. VIN mismatch, yeah. VIN mismatch, yeah. Okay, so let's clear everything out. Alright, so everything's cleared. Only the occupation classification module. Okay, whatever. Let's go to PCM. Alright, so PCM, we'll go special function. And then we will check VIN. Okay. Okay. So 9734, that's the VIN of the car that I guess the ECU came from. And we'll paste the actual VIN of this car. Come on. Okay. VIN write successful, awesome. And I just heard a bunch of stuff come to life. Don't know if you guys heard that. Anyways, check VIN. Okay. Yes. 631. Okay, so that's the VIN of this actual car. So we're not gonna change it. Check engine lights flashing now. Let's reset ECU. Yes. ECU has been reset. Reset memory. Engine not running. Just a memory to reset. We'll do the fuel tab actually. We can do all the memory because we don't know where this ECU came from. And then I'll cycle the key and let's do another code scan. Alright, key cycled, rescanning. Alright, so again we have VIN mismatch codes. That's I guess from before I programmed it. Let's clear the DTCs, one more key cycle, and then we'll check the codes one more time, and then we'll start the car. Alright, so I cycled the key one more time, rescanning it after clearing all the codes. And let's see what we have. Alright, so after reading the codes again, all of these modules have lost communication with light rain sensing module, so I don't think that's important, but no important codes anymore. Let's go ahead and start it. Moment of truth, what do you guys think? Let me turn on the lights, actually, so we can see what we're doing. How do you do that? Okay, cool. Alright, you guys ready? Started right up, running very smoothly. Let's enter the PCM and look at some live data. Alright, so I have the post width for the heaters pulled up. All of them are on 50%. I'm gonna have to compare that to the old data when it did work intermittently. But you could see they're jumping around. The O2 sensors look like they're coming live. Car's idling nicely. Let's give it a rev. And this thing sounds like it has a supercharger on it, but it doesn't. I don't know what that is. Things seem to be working great. I'm gonna go into normal OBD2 as well. I want to see, you know, fuel system status, see if it's going into closed loop, and I want to see it oscillating nicely. Alright, so in OBD mode, I got data pulled up. Both banks are in closed loop, which is awesome. 0% long term, and then short term, that's fine. It's under 10, so it's running pretty good. Bank 2, same thing. It's running a little rich, but still under 10%, which is perfect. You could see bank 1 sensor 1 oscillating nicely, and I couldn't fit bank 2 sensor 2 in here, but let me see. I want to remove RPM and then just go add that. So let's do that. Bank 2 sensor 1, perfect. Graph. Alright, and I just want to see both of them oscillating nicely. Perfect, look at that, that's beautiful. So this car is fixed. Let's take it on a test drive, let's see how it drives, make sure we don't set any fault codes. And I'll call the customer up, tell him this car is ready, he should be very happy. Alright, so I got the car on the road, let's give it some acceleration. Nice, still has that beautiful ME pull. How's our data looking? Looks good to me. Everything's responding fast. Take it on the open road and give it some revs in. I want to see some readiness monitors pass before I'm confident in giving it back to the customer. I want to see the whole 2 monitors pass. You know, I honestly see why people like these engines. It pulls very hard. That Torquey V8, you know, is one of the last companies still making V8s, so, but it's everything that comes with it that sucks. All the electronics, the Chrysler build quality, the engineering. So me personally, I wouldn't own one. Why is this guy flashing me, bro? Me personally, I wouldn't own one, but yeah, they're still fun cars. I bet you, like, I never drove a Hellcat, but it's probably fun to have an engine like this in a sedan, you know? So yeah, let me finish this test drive. I'll get back to you guys. We'll look at some data and see what's going on. Alright, so I got the car on my normal test loop, and it's running absolutely beautifully. So just a few more kilometers and I'll make it back home, and then I'm gonna check the readiness monitors, and yeah, I really hope this thing is passing all of them. So far so good though. But with the old ECM we would have had the check engine by now. So look at all the holiday lights. I won't celebrate all that, but it's very pretty, that's for sure. Anyways, I'll catch up with you guys soon. I'm so pissed. I just seen this guy from one of my local car groups that has a turbo Toyota Camry, same Camry that I have, and he lives in my city, and I never met this guy before. If I had my Camry right now, I would have honked at him and, you know, talked to him a bit, but yeah, I just had to drive by awkwardly staring at his car. That car is awesome though. Turbo Toyota Camry Coupe, 3rd gen. It's beautiful. Anyways, almost home. Alright guys, so back at the garage. Funny enough, this car doesn't support heated O2 sensor monitors, so oh man. But everything else is showing ready. If it loads. I hate this interface. Like, I don't know why it can't just be a normal scroll. Anyways, everything's ready. Catalyst not ready yet, but I'm sure that'll pass the way the car is running. So yeah, this car is fixed. What did we learn from this one? The availability and the repairability of these parts is very important. How are you going to keep these cars on the road, you know, 10-20 years down the line if parts aren't available and nobody wants to rebuild them, right? Also, the quality of parts is important. If Chrysler had engineered this better, this would have never happened. When I opened the ECU to inspect it, there was no weatherproofing, there was no gasket on the case, there was no RTV, nothing. The case just opened, and then you could see the motherboard, the ECU board. And then the ECU board, they just poured conformal coating over it, and they were hoping that would protect it from water ingress, which is ridiculous, because that's probably the reason none of these companies that I contacted wanted to rebuild it, because imagine having to peel all of that off. Nobody wants to do that. So yeah, that just goes to show you, is that planned obsolescence? I can't talk. Is that planned obsolescence? Is that just bad engineering on Chrysler's part? I mean, you see it a lot. Most of my videos are Chrysler videos, which is really annoying. But yeah, that's important. And then also like I always say, the willingness and ability to learn is important. Had I not, you know, had access to the wealth of knowledge online, and had I not been open to learning, I would have never been, you know, got to where I'm at. And just knowing more than one thing, like, it's important to know how these computer systems function. As a mechanic, you're not always going to need that, but as a diagnostician, especially if you're doing these type of case studies, it's very, very useful to know how computers and circuits and things like that function, just so you have a better understanding of these systems. Other than that, yeah, that was an interesting one. I'll call the customer, tell him his car is ready. And as always, I hope y'all learned something. I hope y'all enjoyed, and I'll see y'all next time.